Okay everybody, I'm back. So we have our third show and tell for the night. Again, we're using painted poppies, and this time we're going to add in the Peaceful Moments stamp set as well. So this is called a SIP card. Stamps, ink, and paper. Okay, it's also a simple stamping card. I told you that's a stamped card that doesn't have a whole lot of frills and hard techniques to it. So you can do it as a beginner. So I'm going to show you how I put this one together. Now, the design of this card I'm going to mimic in the next video when I step it up. So let's pay attention to how I put this one together, and then the next one will go together really easy for you as well, even though we're going to make it kind of a wow card. So let's get started. So here is the basic pieces I'm going to need to make my card. I have a piece of colored cardstock that I'm going to use as my backer panel. So see how it's framed? This one's framed in the old olive. This new one's going to be framed in the Poppy Parade. Then I have a card base that I've trimmed down. It's just going to step in and be mounted to that. I have my envelope. Then I have a piece of that beautiful Designer Series paper that we just saw back in the video a few moments ago. That's going to go on our card, and then we're going to put this little edge, this paper ribbon, right along the side of it. So let's go ahead and get started. So this time I'm going to use our liquid adhesive. This is Tombow adhesive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by adding this strip of Designer Series paper. So now one of the perks of using this liquid adhesive is you put it on very thin, and when you put it down it allows you to kind of move it around a little bit if your positioning isn't quite where you want it to be. So if you're a beginner stamper, it's definitely maybe the adhesive you want to start with. The downside to the adhesive is that it's very sticky, and so if you get any glue that squirts out of your edges, it's going to be tacky. So you have to be careful not to overuse your glue. Now, before I put my paper ribbon on, we're going to stamp the poppies. So I'm going to ink up my poppy spray here with my Memento black ink. And then remember, I can see through my stamp, so I know my positioning. I'm going to stamp this about in the middle of the card, right about there. And you can see I'm pressing straight down. I don't want to rock my stamp, otherwise we might end up with a smudge. So I'm just pressing firm and down. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my strip of cardstock here, and that's all it is. It's just a very thin strip of scrap cardstock. Call it a paper ribbon. And I'm just going to marry this right next to that Designer Series paper. So just pull it into place, press it down with your fingers for a moment so that adhesive adheres to the card. Okay, then I'm going to flip the whole thing over. I'm going to add some of this liquid adhesive to the back around my edges. And then I'm just going to take this card, bring in that backer, and we're going to position this just to frame that around the edges with that piece of colored cardstock. Now the whole thing I'm going to flip over, and I'm going to press it down so that all that adhesive gets a nice firm hold between the layers. So that's a pretty simple card design, right? So, like I said, stamps, ink, and paper. So let's go ahead and add our sentiment. So this time I am using a sentiment from the Peaceful Moments stamp set. This is the coordinating stamp set that they have in the catalog in the Peaceful Poppy suite. So I'm going to stamp down here on the bottom. These are the moments we'll look back on with joy. I hope you're going to look back on tonight's party with some joy, so that seems fitting, right? So now we're going to take our kind of dotted watercolored splash stamps here, and I'm going to bring in Poppy Parade and Old Olive ink. Now these two colors happen to be in the pattern of this Designer Series paper. So I'm just going to open my stamps. So the red ones, the poppy ones, I'm going to open my card up just so it's flat. I'm going to ink up my large stamp here. And I'm just going to add a splash of Poppy Parade across the petals. I'm going to flip it over and do one this way. Okay, so it's not a specific coloring technique, we're just adding splashes of color. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with the old olive. I'm going to use the smaller one so I have a little more control because I don't want it to dip down too close to my words. So I'm going to take the flat edge and kind of first come across and give myself kind of a boundary line, and then I'm just going to go ahead and stamp between those, and that just kind of gives us the feeling of ground cover. So there's the front of our card. So you can see the difference. This one's edged in green and this one's edged in Poppy Parade, but they both coordinate with the papers, so it's fine. So this one I stamped thank you on the inside. I'm going to go ahead and stamp thank you on the inside of this one as well. So back to my black ink. I just open that up. I find the middle of my card. I look at my stamp, make sure it's the right way up, and just press it down and pick it up. Okay, so simple stamping card, right? Stamps, ink, paper. So there is that. Now, like we said before, if we're going to make a card, we should stamp our envelope. So let's go ahead and use this Poppy stamp again. Now, I could just put it on the edge, but I actually think I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to stamp them right here on the back label. Little surprise for both your mailman and your recipient. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp the poppies right there. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and add color to the back as well. I think it's always cheery to have a cheerful card and a cheerful envelope. So there we go. There is our simple stamping project. Okay, so I'm going to cut and then I'm going to come back with the next video so that they're both not too long. But like I said, I'm going to duplicate the design of this card on the next project, so we'll compare the two. Alright everybody, stay tuned. We got one more to go.